today's video, I'm going to be giving you the best valued contract at every single position in, well, the NFL. There are a lot of players who are making not a lot of money, and definitely not as much as they should be making for the output they're giving their teams. But we got a few rules we'll use before we get in this video. But either way, before I get into all that, let me tell you about my sponsor. You can see them behind me. There's so many of them now. Dubby Energy. These are my favorite energy drinks, and well, you can see that is true because I've got a whole lot of it. My new favorite flavor, tried it last time we were on here, is this Blue Tropical Punch. It's like a combo with the Solo Leveling show. I don't watch that, but the flavor is incredible. So go ahead and check them out, w.gg. Use code SHREDER right above me over here for a discount on, well, anything on the website. 10% off by that code right there. Check them out. The link is in the description, and let's get to this video. So to start with the rules for this video, the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that no one can be a rookie. Not on a rookie contract, not on any type of that, because it's not fair. Obviously, you know, let me think of a guy. I'm just blanking right now. Somebody like Malik Neighbors had a really good rookie year. Or Brock Bowers, right? Yeah, that's the best value in the NFL, but he's on a contract that isn't really fair to judge by. So, got to be on a second contract or further. Then also, we're using this from last year. This is not something we can judge from the 2025 season that's coming because, well, you can say that, you know, player X is a really good player, but he's also had a really bad year in 2025. So we're going from last year's production. So those are the two rules, and let's get into this. Let's start off with the defensive side. Go up to the offense, because honestly, I think the offense is kind of the ones that people are more interested in. Strong safety. We're breaking this down by position. Strong safety, the most valuable strong safety in the league. Least amount of money paid, but the biggest output is definitely Steelers' Deshaun Elliott. Yeah, see the Steelers stuff in the background? I'm making it up. No, I'm not. This dude was incredible. He only made $3 million last year, and that is less than, who is that? Jeremy Reeves, and more than Quandre Diggs. So that's kind of the monetary value we're getting. But the output was incredible. This year, he had an insane season, and if you watch Steelers games, he was always the guy making plays in the times where it mattered. Every single time. At the free safety spot, we have Reed Blankenship. This guy was obviously really good all year, incredibly helpful to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year. But Blankenship had 820 snaps on the season, which snaps for defense and O-linemen and like D-linemen are incredibly important because that's how much you're on the field and allowing yourself to impact the game. He also had 4 picks, which was tied for 6th in the league. A really good year for Reed Blankenship. He only made $3.5 million this year, which is around the area that Julian Blackmon and Taylor Rapp made. So safeties, they make less money than the rest of the positions, but that's still a good value for Reed Blankenship. The most valuable cornerback in this whole season was Mike Hilton. Now, you can argue that maybe I should have separated nickel and outside guys, but either way, Mike Hilton is the most valuable. He had made $6 million this year, which is synonymous to above him is Darius Williams, and Keyshawn Nixon is just below him. But Darius Williams, okay, he's underpaid too. Keyshawn Nixon's really just a return man, so that's good value. Mike Hilton this year was the #1 cornerback versus the run, as he usually is. He had 63 solo tackles, which was 15th in corners, and 6 total pressures, which was 11th in corners. So getting all that production out of a very lower tier paid player, that is incredible value. Next up is our linebacker position, the inside linebackers particularly. This is Caden Ellis. Caden Ellis is a name that many people may not have heard of. He plays for Atlanta, and he made $7.1 million this past year. Synonymous to Blake Cashman, who has also had a pretty good couple years, and Cody Barton. Now, that's not a lot of money. Blake Cashman's also underpaid, but the output this year from Caden Ellis was really something special. Let me get my notes in line here. This year, he had 1,097 snaps, which ties for 3rd for linebackers. He had 108 solo tackles, tied for 6th in linebackers. He had 5 sacks, tied 3rd for linebackers, and a forced fumble. Caden Ellis, not a massive name, but incredibly productive in the 2024-2025 season. Andrew Van Ginkel is our edge rusher here. He made $10 million, which is the same about Zach Sealer and Jadeveon Clowney. So not the best tier of players. However, this guy had an incredible season. 920 snaps, which was 2nd for edge rusher, so he was always out there, right? 48 solo tackles, 2nd for edge rushers, and 12 sacks, which was 7th for edge rushers. Really productive season. Andrew Van Ginkel, vastly underpaid. Only $10 million when guys like Myles Garrett, who barely got 1 or 2 more sacks from him, is making 40 now. that's a deal that Minnesota's very glad they got done now. 2 more positions left on defense. We're going to go down to the defensive end. Defensive end is Dante Fowler Jr. He went from Dallas for most of his career to Washington last year, followed Dan Quinn, and now he's back in Dallas. But last year, he made $3.25 million, and that got him 10.5 sacks. That was tied 11th for defensive ends. Actually, that was just tied 11th overall. It also got him 25 solo tackles, which was relatively solid as well for a defensive end position. Dante Fowler only making $3 million. That puts him similar to Jermaine Johnson, who's a rookie, and LJ Collier, who is a washed-up vet, to say the least. So, really incredible output for an incredibly cheap deal with Dante Fowler for the Commanders last year. Our defensive tackle is Adam Butler, the defensive tackle for the Raiders. Not even a big name here, but the production, once again, is great. $5.5 million. That puts him around Sebastian Joseph and Tier Tart. Not great players, very average players. But the production here, 856 snaps, tied 3rd for defensive tackles. He had 43 solo tackles, tied 6th for defensive tackles, and 6 sacks, which was 17th for defensive tackles, with 1 forced fumble. Defensive tackles don't always have the most gaudy stat sheets. They don't have a ton of sacks or even tackles. But this guy got it done on the field and was not even paid. $5.5 million for a D tackle is not that much. So really valuable there once again for the Raiders. We will move to the O-line, and this one, the snaps are a big part of this. Now, sacks allowed are inflicted, but snaps, O-linemen, they need to be on the field. And a lot of times they don't get on the field all season long. They're very apt to being injured. So we broke this down into center, guard, and tackle. The center with the best season here was easily Garrett Bradbury. $5.25 million this year, tied for around the ballpark of Ted Karras or Ryan Bates. Not great players, older vets who have, been around the sun a couple times. But Garrett Bradbury had 1,117 snaps, which is 4th for centers alone, just centers, right? Only allowed 4 sacks. Not the best season, but also wasn't bad. Yeah, could be better, but when you have that many snaps in a season and play as good as you did, that's a great season. Don't get me wrong. Then moving to guard. David Edwards of the Buffalo Bills made $3 million. That's the same as Blake Brandel and Cody Ford. Those are not good players, okay? End of story. David Edwards this year had 975 snaps, which I believe may have been top 3 or so. I don't have it listed. And he allowed 0 sacks on the season. 0. One of the reasons why Josh Allen won his MVP and very much deserved it. What a incredible season that David Edwards had, and really just the Bills' O-line as a whole had a great season, even though they weren't really expected to. I'm going to have to break my own rules for this tackle position, but that's because something happened this year that is incredibly unheard of. We're going off of a contract that will be enacted now, this year, not last year, but that's because Teron Armstead, one of the best tackles in the NFL for the last decade nearly, played 821 snaps, allowed 3 sacks, which tackles tend to allow a few more than interior linemen. But he took a pay cut, taking his salary from $28 million to $1 million, to a veteran minimum. We don't ever see that happen. What a selfless move by this vet who is, one of the most tenured and established O-linemen in the entire league, allowing his team to really pay him nothing because, yeah, he's deciding whether or not he wants to play, but that's incredible. It's incredible. Good job, Teron Armstead. Huge respect gained for that one. Now we get into the interesting stuff. The tight end, who is the most valuable tier. Jonnu Smith made $4.2 million to play for Miami, and, another Miami player here, but that is the same amount as Will Dissly and Foster Moreau. Very just subpar tight ends. Just backups. Like lower tier backup tight ends, right? Not really good. He had 88 catches, which was 4th in tight ends. He had, 884 yards. Also 4th for tight ends. And he had 8 touchdowns, tied 2nd with George Kittle for tight ends. In terms of receiving, this guy was incredible this year. After looking like a wasted player, leaving Tennessee, going to New England, he comes to Miami and has an incredible season. One of the best seasons that any tight end had this year. And only making $4 million? Yeah, that's a steal. The wide receiver with the best value is, shocker here, Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney did make $13 million, but that puts him in the ballpark of Gabe Davis and Cortland Sutton, who is also very underpaid, don't get me wrong. But Darnell Mooney had 64 catches, which isn't anything to gawk at. But he had 992 yards. That was tied for 25th with DK Metcalf. A guy like DK Metcalf and Darnell Mooney are tied, right? He's actually considered more than him. And 5 touchdowns. the production he gave for the contract he's on, tying him with there's a lot of good receivers in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. Darnell Mooney is not particularly one of them. But being similar to DK Metcalf, being similar, let me pull up my stats here to see who else he's really, really close to. I just want to get this all right for you. Looking at the stats of receiving yards, he's 25th, and that is more than DK Metcalf, more than Puka Nacua, more than Juwan Jennings, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, George Pickens, just barely more than Jonnu Smith. That's just around the same number. Guys who ride around 1,000. Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Jamison Williams, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown he didn't even have 100 more yards. The value for Darnell Mooney this past year was incredible. Those guys are $30 million per year receivers, and he had the same value for his team. At running back, this is probably the best overall player on this list, but it's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry only made $8 million last year on salary on a brand new contract. That's the crazy part. He didn't even blow the salary cap out of the water. He didn't, reset the market for running backs. $8 million. That's about the price of DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard, who are not particularly great, right? He had 325 carries, which if it did not lead the league, was very, very close. 1,921 yards, which was second in the league, only behind Saquon Barkley, who had a historic season, with a almost 6 yard per carry average and 16 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, at his age, and he's a big reason why I couldn't use upcoming years, because what if Derrick Henry really does fall off a cliff this year? What if he's not as good as he was this past year or the rest of his career anymore after this year? I've got to go backtrack. So Derrick Henry, he's the most valuable running back in 2024. And the one you've all been waiting for. I really struggled who to put here. And some people may disagree with this, but honestly, there's really no other answer. Russell Wilson was paid $1.2 million. That is the same amount that Malik Willis and C.J. Beathard have made this year. He threw 63.7% of his passes to receivers, 2,482 yards in only, 11 starts? So not bad at all. 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and initially led his team to a 6-1 record after taking over for Justin Fields. Ended 0-5, yes, but there were plenty of other things that went wrong in that stretch that weren't just on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's output, 2,500 yards nearly, 16 touchdowns to 5 picks, and it's almost 64% completion. That is the best value a quarterback has ever played. No quarterback outside of rookie contracts has ever played that well or that much on that cheap of a contract. It really, truly is just a unique situation that allows him to win this. I'll tell you who my honorable mention was in a minute, but you may disagree, say Russell Wilson sucked. He didn't suck. Yeah, he came out hot and kind of slowed down a little bit, but there was a lot of issues with plenty of other players on that Pittsburgh Steelers team. Russell Wilson was the most valuable quarterback of least pay in 2024. Now, the second honorable mention that I almost went with was Baker Mayfield, because the output he gave, I'm going to pull up the stats on him because I don't have them written down in front of me. The output that Baker Mayfield gave, he was third in the league in yards with 4,500, 71% completion, which is bonkers, and he had 41 touchdowns to 16 picks. Really incredible season from him, and he only made $33 million, which is less than Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, less than Sam Darnold now, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, less than Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, less than most people that are lower than him in last year's stats. So Baker Mayfield gets the honorable mention, but Russell Wilson, I mean, it's a unique situation you can't argue with, but was the most valuable quarterback of the season. That's going to do it for this video, though. Thank you guys for watching, and soon, maybe, if y'all are interested, I'll do the least contracts in the NFL, the least valuable, the least best contracts, the worst contracts in the NFL. But let me know what you think down below, if there's somebody who should have been put on this list over one of the guys I put. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. They don't cost you a single thing, and they do help me out a ton, and I'll see y'all in the next video.